Friday after that song, we could just all call it good, say amen, and go out and have some coffee together. That was a ministry within a ministry right there. Thank you. Thank you very much. What a pleasure to be here. To be here in your sanctuary, Unity of the Valley, and to be here in the Twin Cities area. For a number of reasons, I express gratitude for that, including in Rapid City, South Dakota, and Sturgis, South Dakota, right now, right today. Wow, another wow. That community of, in the whole of the Black Hills, if they're 90,000, that's maybe overstating the case, total population. And the estimate is about 1 million people have either arrived or are arriving for the 75th Harley-Davidson motorcycle reunion. Now, some folks are headed that way. I heard actually one is headed that way in a day or two, right here, right there. And others are trying to escape. Some of the locals are just leaving town for about a week. But it promises to be in every way festive. And I would ask you to join me for a special blessing upon all of those travelers, all of those visitors, the people on and off the road and participating in various festivities. We just want it to be a good, healthy, safe, balanced, and exciting good time for all. About 40 years ago, two women who didn't know each other met at a conference. My memory is it was on the East Coast. I believe it might have been Boston. And the two women got acquainted through being mutual participants at this conference. I think they were each presenters. They hadn't known each other prior. But Arlene Kennedy Pike and, Diane Kennedy Pike and Arlene Lawrence were the two women. And they sparked a common denominator set of interests in their work as authors. I think by now, Diane Kennedy Pike, in reading her bio, she's written about 15 books. Arlene Lawrence has written 2 or 3, the most noteworthy of which is called The Buddha from Brooklyn. Now, these two, in their workshops and special presentations, have from time to time over these 40 years past have visited various Unity centers and either done, assisted in performing the Sunday service and giving the message and or a workshop after the Sunday services. And on one of those occasions that I was particularly privileged to be a part of vicariously through a friend of mine, a spiritual journeyer who had attended and got to know Diane Kennedy Pike and Arlene Lawrence. And when I was talking with a friend after her workshop experience with the two of them, they formed, the two women, spiritual leaders and authors, formed a movement called the Love Project. And the Love Project has its foundation and kind of guiding set of lights, 6 principles. And it's those 6 principles that I would like us each to consider today. And if we could listen and ponder through the lens of how can I use this? How might I or each of us incorporate these principles in our lives today and of course after today, hopefully for many years to come. Certainly my personal experience and set of experiences over probably the last 25 years since I was first introduced to the principles, in one way or the other, they've either subconsciously or consciously served my journey every day. And let's see if that might be the case for you as well. Love Project principle number 1 borrows heavily from Gandhi, you'll recognize. Be the change you want to see happen instead of trying to change everyone else. Okay. Now, the end of that is the Love Project people tweak. Gandhi's, of course, was be the change you want to see happen in the world. And I like that. It's good as it stands. And then that addition certainly years back and even up to right now speaks to me. Richard, instead of trying to change everyone else, How about remembering that transformation begins where? It begins within me, and it begins with each and every one of us. That as I look to see how much more deeply I might be able, and you might be able to incorporate and kind of live quietly and live aloud the spiritual principles that Unity offers and teaches us and shares with us through writing and every Sunday morning. How might I more be the change that I want to see happen in the world? Are we looking for greater peace? Well, it begins right here with what this says, right on your wall. I am peace. We declare that for ourselves, rudimentarily in a way that allows our unconscious mind to echo that truth back to us by way of our behavior, by way of what we say and do. And be the change that we want to see happen in the world as far as joy and delight. You know, as I look around me in my community and in the states that Carol and I live in, both Minnesota and South Dakota, we could there could be an extra dollop of joy available. And for a lot of years, my effort, and I think well-intended but a bit misguided, was to think that I would have a role in teaching, quote unquote, someone else or other people how to get in touch with their happiness or their joy. That's not a bad thing to do, but what's even better is that I bring a joyful presence into their lives. Is it not? A joyful me walks in through their door and shares, perhaps without even saying so, I am glad to be with you, and my heart sings in your presence. Being the change we want to see happen in the world. Love Project principle number 2. Create your own reality consciously rather than living as if you had no control over your life. Pretty good, Diane and Arlene. One of the quotes that I came across from an industrialist, historically, who we all know, and the products from Henry Ford, some of you were probably driving, or I encountered coming or going on the highway from St. Paul to come into the service today. I don't know, there's probably 200 or 300 Fords on the highway at least. Good cars, good trucks. And Henry Ford's quote, whether you think you're right or whether you think you're wrong. No, wait a minute. What, no, how does it go? I had it written down once and I didn't bring it with me. Excuse me? Yeah, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. Thank you for your help on that one. Thank you for your help. That's a joint effort, is it not? Yeah, kind of a reminder to Richard, write it down next time. So we'll have it and be able to quote it accurately. But universally, we brought it together. And isn't that true? Whether we think we can or we think we can't, I think Henry Ford was spot on. We're right. Whatever we lay claim to in our lives, whether we speak aloud and behave in a way that embraces our limitations, or whether we choose a different path that Unity, of course, teaches, and it leads us into being, I am the light, and I not only am loving, but I am love. I am that incarnate presence within each and every one of us, that Christ knowingness, that Christ loving, radiant, pulsing, I like to think of liquid love. And that we each are that. And we become what it is, of course, Unity embraces and reinforces for us every day, week in and week out, that we become more and more what we think about, what we lay claim to, what we verbalize about ourselves and in regard to our lives. What's the old saying? Name it and claim it. Is it not? Yeah. There's a story that in reference, that I love to quote when I'm thinking about being the change that we want to see happen. And it was from Baba Muktananda. Some of you might have heard of Siddha Yoga. And Baba Muktananda in the early 1970s brought, as a teacher, guru, spiritual leader, Siddha Yoga to the United States. And one of the questions, this was about in 1975 at a darshan that Baba was conducting in New York, near New York State, upper New York State. He was asked what he was. Was he a guru? Was he a master? Was he a spiritual teacher? Was he an author? What are you, Baba Muktananda? Was the question from someone in the audience. And Baba's response was, I am as you see me. I am as you see me. And we get to create our own reality consciously. And when I remember that I'm the one that gets to assign interpretations, when you're and we each are the ones who adds meaning to whatever experience we're having or we just had, and we can call it what? We can call it good, or we can call it something different. And when we call it good, it tends to then multiply and become more of the same. Another word, statement of truth, like attracts like. All right, that takes care of number 2. Number 3, oh, I love this one. See problems as opportunities. Now, that's not a brand new truth statement. It occurs in lots of different forms and wording elsewhere in literature, including in Unity. But something that was fairly new to me is that if we take a look in an unabridged dictionary at the word problem, what we'll discover is that both its rooting back to original Greek and original Latin, the word problem or problema, Greek, Latin, problem, problema. And what it means is to throw forward. What it means is to propel ourselves from whatever challenge, or if we want to call it a problem that we might be experiencing or facing, and that when we allow ourselves, and Unity would teach this, to lean in the direction of the gift that lies within the problem. That energy of leaning into and in the direction of the challenge creates a particular synergy that assists in propelling us forward or upward and onward in the direction of the solution. Isn't that wonderful? I think that's pretty good news today. That when each of us remembers that what I ordinarily or formally might have called a problem is problem or problema, it doesn't matter if we remember those words or not, but the essence of the energy is to lift me and you and us up and fuel us forward toward a brighter day, toward the outcome that we would more want to envision. And that we there too, we get to be the instruments, we get to be the navigators, what direction we want this life called mine and the lives we each are living called ours to go. See problems as opportunities. Number 4, receive all people as beautiful exactly where they are. Wow. That's a short sentence, but it's a big process, isn't it? Isn't that big? Yeah. As part of, my theory is part of my human brain and part of most of our brains, gray matter, firing off with the neurons. Most of us have grown up in a culture where it's fairly naturally inclined to assess and to judge, to evaluate. And in proper proportion and rightly placed, assessment and judgment and discernment are necessary and good components of what makes our life successful and buoyant and balanced. I agree with that. Now, additionally, when we look out and recognize and behold the other and each other as beautiful exactly where we are, what does that mean? Additionally, it means there's nothing broken, no need for fixing. If there's nothing broken and all innately we're whole and well and balanced, and our natural nature is to express in the best way we know how the incarnate Christ energy and essence within each and every one of us, how could there possibly be anything broken? There's nothing to be fixed. It's all beauty-filled. And it's a wonderful thing, gift and blessing that we can give to another, of recognizing each other as perfect order right where we are. And on our journey, we'll embrace what's next in the best way we know how. One of my mentors, a quick statement before leaving Love Project, principle number 4, is from Virginia Satir. Some of you who come from a helping hand background might remember that name. Virginia, in her lifetime, was a world-renowned lecturer, family therapist, marriage counselor, and reconciler. Virginia would work with heads of states of different countries and attempt to bring together to be more understanding of one another, to resolve differences, to negotiate and dialogue and come to touch into each other's lives in a way that avoids the bombs and the guns. And Virginia did a lot of that in her lifetime. What she said is this. In a workshop Carol and I were at a number of years ago, Virginia Satir was in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And she said, among a number of things that were pearls of wisdom, she said, I ask you each and every one, all of us in the audience at that time, to remember that you and that we each are doing the very best that we can at any given moment in time. Given our inner consciousness, given our psyche and where we're at in this moment, and also combined with the outer world, the computer printout of our lives. So inwardly and outwardly, wherever we are and however we're showing up in that moment, I am and you are doing the very best that we can. And what's left to do is call you and us and each other energetically beautiful. I embrace you as the beautiful being you are right here, right now. I say to myself silently when I greet and meet people, it's a wonderful, quiet, silent prayer we give to the world. All right, number 5. They won't be quite as long as 1, 2, 3, and 4. Quite. This one's a good one. Provide others with opportunities to give. Let's pause on that now. I know most of us are of a mind and inclination to give to others, to be generous, to give to the spiritual center here today, to offer our contributions in the direction of assisting and in hopes of having another's life be better, be that with friends or family or charities or nonprofits. We're all acclimated to be givers, to be in the role of contributor. Yay, that we are. But little known other half of that coin that I want to champion here today in brief is that providing others with opportunities to give, to reach into their resourcefulness and their brilliance, to knock on the door of the other person's inner genius and to invite them to contribute and to offer forth the treasures and the gems that are in with each and every one of us. To set an environment where others have an opportunity to give of themselves in that way, time, treasure, money, whatever it is an act of high order. When I remember, and I ask you each to take this quick little self-inventory, when I've felt the best about myself, most often, is when I've given something of value to another person or to a cause. I felt most aligned, most in sync with who I understand myself that I've come to be in the world. An agent of change, of blessing, of love, of transformation. And many of you in your own ways could say in different words, but something like that. I know you could, and I know you have. So when I've given, I feel the best about myself. I feel like, yeah, I am aligned with my purpose. Well, let's just flip that on its head. And what we do when we provide others with an opportunity to give is that we're giving them a tall, cool drink of a non-alcoholic beverage on a hot day. We are? We are. I don't know where that line came from. I guess I'm getting a little thirsty here, so we're going to keep going. Yeah, tea. Just tea. Number 6, and we'll conclude with this. Have no expectations, but rather abundant expectancy. Let's go through that one more time. I know the first half might sound a little contradictory, because I learned throughout my schooling, including in Unity, have goals and expectations and pictures and imaging what we want, treasure mapping, and all of those wonderful tools. But the Love Project people are saying, good, do that. And if you want to do a higher order, if you want expectations gone to college, gone to grad school, then try this on, they're saying. Instead of specific expectations, when we have abundant expectancy, what are we doing? We're opening the garage door, not just a doorway or one window, an entire huge entry point into our lives, and we're saying this. We're saying, God, I'm believing and having faith that you know my greater good. And you've got an eye on the ball called what would be the most powerful, fulfilling, abundant balancing of health and wellness and prosperity that could possibly come our way. When we hold abundant expectancy, we're saying, in a line in Unity goes something like this. We pray for this or that, and we say, thank you, God, for this or for something better. Most of us are familiar with that phrase. And expectancy being held and embraced abundantly lets God be in charge. That spiritus, that higher power, that greater presence and being of each of our understanding, however we choose to think of her, him, however we choose to embrace that energy, that consciousness. With abundant expectancy, I ask that we go forward from today, remembering the other 5 Love Project principles and using them as you would be led in divine order from here and from here forth. Thank you very much.